Lobbies and gentlegrams, when Queen Lil Kim came climbing the charts beside Biggie Papa, New York's king of the art, no soul dared to doubt her divine rise, destined for the throne, not a need for disguise. Then came Missy Elliott, the microphone magician. With Timbo the time bender, they set sail on a sonic mission. Fans flocked fast and friends felt the flare. Missy seated the summit, she was already there. Now next decade, Nicki the Ninja lit the lane, with Lil Weezy the fireman fanning her flame. Her reign was well written, her rise well planned. With YMC and B, she was a superstar in high demand. But now we meet Doechii, the swamp princess of TDE, the same camp as Kendrick and SZA. But the world couldn't see that just like her female rap predecessor, she's in a pristine squad. But still they call her a plant, a poser, a fraud, an industry plant. What does that even really mean? And was Doechii doxed as a dummy of music's massive marketing machine? Well, let's peel back the layers of these questions, each one, and rewind the reel back to where it all begun. Now, lobbies and gentlegrams, in a world of TikTok stars and music composers turned content creators, the conventional rise of Doechii has ruffled some feathers. I say conventional because what we're witnessing is old school marketing and artist development in the digital age. Because Doechii's rollout seems picture perfect, because the timing of the splash mixtape Alligator Bites Never Heal to just months later winning a Grammy also seemed divine, because the mixtape might have not initially created a spark but still continued to get worked on by the label, the general public, who's used to viral dance challenges, bloated playlists, and lack of long-term development and promotion, they were confused by Doechii's rise. She sold 11K in the first week with Alligator Bites Never Heal, but now she's winning Grammys just months later, breaking records with Lauryn Hill and Carti B, Lauryn Hill even bringing her out on stage, more monthly listeners than Doja Cat and the Queen Nicki Minaj, but her songs aren't on the radio crazy, they weren't getting streamed much before the Grammys. Is this an industry plant? Is this a manufactured, pre-concocted elevation to the top of hip-hop by her label TDE? Well, to answer these questions, we gotta dig into a couple things. Firstly, what even is an industry plant? Well, I asked ChatGPT for the difference between organic popularity versus industry planted popularity. So, of course, as you guys probably know, an organic artist, by definition, is an artist who builds a fan base on their own through mixtapes, social media buzz, live shows, and or viral moments before getting signed or pushed by the label in a major way. How it works is essentially their rise feels natural because it actually is. Labels may eventually step in with the big budget to help, but only after the artist has proven themselves. Examples of this could be J. Cole, who dropped various mixtapes and built a strong buzz before signing to Roc Nation, and even then, Roc Nation forced him to concoct radio-friendly hits before he was allowed to release his debut album. You can also look at someone like Chance the Rapper, who gained fame through free releases like Acid Rap and 10 Day with no real label backing. On the flip side, an industry plant is an artist who is backed by a label or insiders from the very start of their career, but they're marketed to look independent or they're come up to look natural. How it works is their image is curated and their early success might be due to more insider support, like money being paid out to radio stations, proper connections, or placements onto big platforms. You see very big budget common marketing tactics more than actual grassroots buzz. Why this matters is the public feels misled when the artist's rise looks independent and it's really not. According to ChatGPT, a couple examples of industry plants, I can't confirm or deny that these really are plants, but they list Iggy Azalea, who had major label support early on, but was marketed as a viral underground artist. You also had Lil Nas X, that ChatGPT said, even though he went viral with Old Town Road, people argue his quick jump to fame and a backing by the massive Columbia Records suggested that he had planted support. And they also list Jack Harlow to a certain extent. While he's talented, some fans question how quickly he rose and got big placements. But one thing we don't question enough, and we definitely should, is just how exposed we are simply by using the internet every single day. Privacy, it doesn't exist anymore. Seriously, just Google your name. You'd be surprised how much of your information is out there. And think about this, right? Do you use the same password for your email, your bank account, your YouTube account, all your different accounts? Yeah, that's a problem. You ever wonder how scammers get your phone number or why your email's packed with spam? It's because there are companies called data brokers that track and sell your personal personal info without you even knowing. But today we're going to change that with the help of this video sponsor, Aura. See, as a YouTuber, I need to make sure my YouTube account never gets hacked and my personal info stays private. And that's what led me to Aura. They automatically remove my data from all the websites I visit, they alert me if my information shows up on the dark web, and they help protect my accounts with a built-in password manager and an antivirus tool. And if something does go wrong, they even have up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. You don't have to be a tech genius to protect yourself. Use the QR code on the screen, the link in my description, or just type in aura.com/rapaholics and you'll get a 2-week free trial, which is more than enough time for you to check out if your information has been exposed to sketchy websites. Stay respected and protected. The key difference here is an organic come up is when fans discover the artist and then the labels come in with their marketing budgets. A plant is the industry puts the artist in front of fans and then acts like the fans discovered them. So which bracket does Doechii fit? Her being a plant would mean that the industry discovered her, put her on these massive stages, which then led fans to discover her. Now, since Doechii got her biggest look after the Grammys and saw a big spike in the popularity of her music after that, would she be considered a plant? Well, let's take a deep look into her early beginnings because the answers to all these questions lie deep in the depths of every aspect of Doechii's come up. Doechii, who was born Jayla Hickman, sorry for mispronouncing that name, on August 14th, 1998. On a side note, we almost share the same exact birthday. In Tampa, Florida, Doechii was born and raised in a house full of music from day one. And I mean, just considering the fact that me and Doechii are almost the same age, I feel kind of old looking at all that she's accomplished. But enough about me. See, Doechii's exposure to music came from both sides of her family, and it was through various different mediums and genres. But above all else, Doechii's charisma, her charm, and her inspiration came from her mother. Doechii's mom had her when she was very young, likely still navigating the world and adulthood and figuring out who she was. And Doechii essentially grew up alongside her. Doechii recalls watching her mother's own journey and taking inspiration from every aspect of her mother's personality.
My mom was a young mother too. She got pregnant with me at 18. We grew up together. It was so interesting watching her grow up, and like to this day, I want to be like my mom. It's not even about my career. She's just like such a fascinating woman. She's so poised, graceful, and kind, but also like roaring, and you're scared of her. And I want to be that poised one day.
By the time her mother brought her into this world, Doechii was exposed to and surrounded by different music in and out of the house. She has early memories of being a kid surviving those brutally warm winters in Tampa with live music flooding the street corners surrounding her.
Growing up in Florida, I just was around a lot of music, a lot of different creatives. It's just a lot of hot summer days and a lot of music. That's how I grew up. I just remember hearing a lot of music.
Doechii was deeply involved in church during her upbringing in Tampa, Florida. She grew up in a home that emphasized strong Christian values, and the church played a massive role in her upbringing. Doechii would spend 6 days a week at church where she sang gospel music and performed as a dancerette in a Christian marching band.
I was in the choir. We had a dance team. I was like a leader in praise and worship. I also was a part of their band. They had a marching band. I grew up on like real gospel music.
Now, on a side note, while digging into Doechii's past, I gotta give a really special shout out to the YouTube channel Spatial. They do amazing documentaries on probably all of your favorite artists. I'm gonna leave a link in the description of their video on Doechii because a lot of the interview clips that you're gonna see in this video came from the research that Spatial did. I'm not trying to take credit here. I just wanna document Doechii's rise and give you my own perspective on what I think about her come up. It's an interesting story. So this early immersion into church activities nurtured Doechii's musical talents and stage presence. This discipline and performance experience that she gained became the foundation for her dynamic artistry that we see today. Doechii acknowledged this herself, saying that all of her artistic values and training came out of her church experience. Not only was Doechii involved in the church's musical programs, but at 11 years old, a pastor had prophesied that she would touch millions of people with her gifts, which is a moment Doechii describes as being quote-unquote anointed. At the time, Doechii didn't yet know what those gifts were, but this spiritual affirmation combined with her church-based musical training played a significant role in shaping her path as a performer and an artist. In an interview, Doechii explained, "I was anointed that day. I'm very aware that my purpose is to inspire people through music. I think I'm meant to mirror a truth about people. That's my purpose."
I've always had a longing to connect with spirit and God, and I look for God in everything that I do.
But aside from the musical influence instilled through her church and her neighborhood, And aside from the strong attributes of her personality that were molded by her mother, it was Doechii's dad and uncle that actually had introduced her to hip-hop, with both of them being rappers themselves.
Both my dad and my uncle were rappers. My dad was like Snatch It a Boss or something like that. My dad does have some CDs out and he has music on streaming and on YouTube. And my uncle, I don't know if he ever officially put anything out.
Now, although her life at home fostered creativity and spirituality, with both her parents being positive role models for Doechii, her life outside the house was far from comfortable. Throughout her childhood, Doechii experienced intense bullying, both within her own community and the private schools she attended. This duality, attending private school while living in a low-income neighborhood, left her feeling out of place in both environments. She faced racism and colorism, including being called derogatory names by peers of all backgrounds.
You bougie, you rich.
Exactly.
They think you got
so
more
it was
than-
kind of like
yeah.
that type of experience. So I got bullied a lot in like predominantly white areas, but then I would go around my black friends and get like bullied too. I was always caught in this weird place where I went to private school, but I would leave private school off scholarship and then I would go to Sulphur Springs, which is the hood. I would go to school and I would have one personality because I wanted to fit in with other people of other races.
Right.
And then I would go home and then I was like, oh, I can be myself now. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of hard growing up because I didn't know I had an identity issue.
Right.
And I code switching all the time.
The bullying escalated to a point where in 6th grade, Doechii contemplated ending it all. However, she had a pivotal realization. Ending her life would only let her bullies win. This moment of clarity led her to embrace her true self and gave birth to her artistic persona, Doechii, a symbol of reclaiming power and self-worth. At her lowest point, Doechii had a realization that shifted everything. She opened up about the moment in an interview with The Cut, stating, "I realized, I'm going to unalive myself and then I'm going to be the only one gone. The bullies aren't going to be with me, and everything they said is not coming with me either. I would just be gone." And then I was like, F that. I'm not going for that. And this wash of peace came over me, and I received, I am Doechii. And you might be thinking, if the bullying got this severe, why didn't Doechii's parents step in? Well, they did. And it was thanks to their intervention and more specifically, her mom's affirming words that led Jayla Hickman, the 12-year-old from Tampa, to become Doechii.
My mom was very protective of me, but it got to a point where she was like, okay, girl, how many times are you going to get beat up? Are you going to keep letting people bully you or are you going to stand up for yourself? So eventually I saw her fall back and just allow me to stand up for myself. You going to fight back or you going to get beat up? And I got tired of getting beat up.
Tired of getting beaten up and bullied, Jayla needed a new creative source, or a character shift. Something that could bring her the fulfillment and confidence she needed to shut out the outer noise and live life on her own accords. And that's when the shy 6th grader decided to become someone new and write a new identity for herself into her diary.
Created a character to protect
Exactly.
the real you.
As a
superhero.
defense.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
What
yeah.
age was this?
6th grade.
Oh, 6th grade.
Yeah, 6th grade.
Yes.
And I've been Doechii ever since. I told you, like, I had like an identity issue. I just felt like I wasn't allowed to be myself in all of the spaces that I was in. I just decided one day, like, bro, I'm gonna die. The only person who's going to be in that casket is me. And I want to die happy. I want to do what I want to do and be who I am. And I came up with a name and Doechii came to me. I wrote it down in my diary in 6th grade. And then I started branding myself really early.
And with the birth of Doechii, Jayla's entire attitude and perspective on life had completely changed. She embraced who she was. She wasn't afraid to express her creativity and delve deeper into exploring her talent as a performer and a songwriter. It might have not been much at the time, but with the confidence that her alter ego of Doechii gave her, Jayla decided to form a rap group and perform in talent shows at her middle school.
I started this rap group in middle school. I wrote a song for the talent show and it just kind of built from there. Everywhere I went, I just would do music or try to collaborate with somebody with music.
And this is where we really get the birth of Doechii. With that middle school talent show, Doechii wrote her first ever song. And while people in 2025 might be screaming industry plant, Doechii's been planting the seeds for over a decade, rooting it all back to a cookie cream pie.
Your love is like a cookie cream
Pie. In my heart, I could eat it up. I did a talent show and I wrote a song. And my first song that I ever wrote was, your love is like a cookie cream pie. In my heart, I could eat it up. It was so bad.
Now, of course, Doechii was surrounded by hip-hop and music in general throughout her childhood, but the inspiration didn't only stem from her hometown. She was an animated person at heart, a performer, And as she grew up, she watched some of her favorite rappers integrate animation and theatrics into their bars, their voice, etc. And that inspired her to do the same.
I actually got inspired to play with different voices from Lil Wayne. Early Wayne did that a lot. Nicki Minaj does that a lot. Tyler, the Creator, does it a lot. I think that's when I realized, like, oh, you can be animated. You can incorporate, like, theater.
Doechii would continue building the foundation, taking initiative to bring her creative skill set to new levels. In the 9th grade, she set her sights on the Howard W. Blake School of Arts, and the school wasn't in her district, so she had to audition for its Magnet program, which is essentially a school program that offers a unique curriculum focused on a specific area of study, such as science, technology, or in Doechii's case, the arts.
It's two sides. It's like a public side and then there's a magnet side. So if you want to get into the arts program, you have to audition. So I auditioned in 2012. I was in chorus. I also did jazz vocal tech. I did music theory, a little guitar. I tried musical theater, but it wasn't my thing.
At the time, Doechii didn't know how to read music yet, but they accepted her because she had a strong voice. She made sure to go full force on using the school's resources to develop as an artist, and she says this program was what taught her the most essential elements of music composition. She recalls her experience there saying, "They let the performing art kids get away with a lot. I was never really in class. I would just be in the practice rooms playing piano, going over classical choir songs, dancing. I did everything but be in class."
That's where I made a lot of my friends who I still work with today, actually. I learned about jazz music, music composition, how to read music, how to write music, how to make songs, and it really is the core of the music that I make today.
Doechii was convinced she would graduate and become a professional choral singer until around 2014 when one of her best friends put her onto the idea of producing and releasing her own music online without a label. And like most aspiring artists or creatives in the digital era, Doechii documented her progress on YouTube, but not necessarily in hopes of getting discovered by a record executive off the strength of her music on the channel. As a matter of fact, early on, music seemed to be a side quest on her YouTube page. She posted covers and a few original tracks to the channel, but it was more like a visual journal, showcasing every step she took towards getting where she wanted to be.
Now we go to class. Today's not working. Today's story is going to be about the crazy time that your girl almost got kidnapped. In summary, to quickly just broadly say, obviously being a black girl now feels lit as ever. To be honest, I walk around with my nose up.
I remember literally not being able to afford a camera. I used just my phone to like film my videos, and my front camera didn't work, so I had to use my back camera. And I just kind of ended up growing this community of people that just like to hear me ramble. And it ended up growing into this actual fan base that I have now.
And this to me is the best answer to the question of, is Doechii an industry plant? Is she some manufactured pop culture puppet concocted by the music industry executives? See, the best and worst part about the internet is that everything is saved forever. The best part about Doechii, though, is that not only was she an open book back then, but she hasn't changed. Most artists would wipe their entire history off the internet as soon as they blow up. The tweets, the home videos, embarrassing videos, early music, erase or filter the past, start new, and remain a mystery. But with Doechii, every video she ever created remains on her YouTube channel. The same channel that you can find her Grammy Award-winning mixtape, or the top 10 songs she landed with Anxiety. That same YouTube channel hosts her entire evolution as an artist long before the fame. It's almost like a passport of every stop she's made on this creative journey before she got to this point of success. The point where people now think the talent, the accolades, the star power is all manufactured. Now you might be saying, okay, so she documented her progress as an artist on YouTube. That doesn't mean shady label tactics weren't involved in artificially propping her up and shoving her down our throats. Well, there's a lot more to the story than just a calculated creative and a YouTube channel. There was a long journey of confusion, struggle, failure, doubt, even homelessness that came with it. In 2016, a few months after her senior year, Doechii participated in a freestyle challenge set to Monica's song So Gone. People really effed with it, she says. It was the push she needed to go all in. Not long after, she put out her first song, El Chapo, on SoundCloud. It's not the type of flashy single that would have record labels knocking on your door, but it feels unusually mature for a debut song. Doechii sings with a mix of confidence and vulnerability as she effortlessly switches up her flows. And the song gained tens of thousands of streams within just a few months. And Doechii said, after that, I was like, oh hell no, I can do this stuff. But good luck finding that song anywhere. That's one part of her history that she wants erased.
Your first song was El Chapo?
It was El Chapo on SoundCloud.
It's just hard to find now.
Yes.
Will it ever come out, though?
Absolutely not. It's a horrible song.
And while a lot of Doechii's YouTube videos in the beginning were lighthearted and fun, taking trips to Disneyland, telling stories about her dating life, school, her efforts to break into the industry, as she got older, life began to hit. Bills needed to be paid, a career needed to be built. It's fun chasing dreams at 17, 18 years old, but once you make it into your 20s, reality sets in and you gotta make a living somehow. You ever hear of a starving artist? Someone who puts their everything into their craft but can't survive financially off of it? Hollywood has thousands of these people, and at one point, Doechii was walking the thin line of potentially becoming one of them. After the mild traction of her El Chapo record and some of her early music, Doechii toured neighboring areas around her hometown of Tampa. But she was in search of something bigger. As she puts it, being the best rapper out of Tampa was great and all, but that wouldn't pay the bills.
I think that I had done every show, I did every club in Tampa, and I was looking for something else. I wanted people to know about my city. I wanted to learn new things, and I wanted to get in a space where I wasn't the best. Oh, I said that humbly.
I rock with that. Come on.
So when opportunity came knocking, Doechii went packing. In 2019, Doechii got the opportunity to be a contestant on The Voice, a competition TV series that aims to find unsigned singing talent from auditions. With Doechii looking for an exit plan out of Tampa, The Voice seemed like the perfect opportunity. The only problem is, it was located way out in New York, where Doechii had no place to stay, no friends to call, not even a return flight home.
I was still an independent artist when I was in New York. Starving, struggling.
Yeah. What brought you here? Was it just like, all right, I'm going to go and figure it out?
I got an audition with The Voice.
Okay.
Doechii put it all on the line with this audition. If she won, she'd not only get a record contract with UMG, but also a cash prize of $100,000 to fund a music career and a lifestyle in the expensive state of New York. The only problem is, Doechii didn't win.
They called me out there to audition for this thing that they had. I didn't make the audition, but I swore I was going to make the audition. And I didn't have enough money to get back because I was like, The Voice is going to accept me and I'm going to live here and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
It did not work out that way.
Now this is when Doechii walked a French fry thin line of almost becoming a starving artist. And I mean that with all puns intended, because after The Voice, being stranded in New York with nowhere to go, Doechii was on the verge of homelessness, even having to resort to making a resort out of a McDonald's restaurant. Alright, I'll stop with the puns. But yeah, Doechii really had to seek shelter in a McDonald's the night that she was rejected off of The Voice.
Didn't make the cut and I didn't have enough money to come back.
Okay.
So I had to stay in New York.
Where were you staying though? Like with a friend at a hotel?
It was kind of like every night I just had to figure it out. One night I would stay in Jersey with like my mom's friend who she knew, and then I would get booked at another show. I got booked the day after I did The Voice.
Okay.
So for that night after The Voice, I slept at a McDonald's.
With her dreams still in full force, Doechii walked the line of homelessness as she constructed the early connections in music that would eventually make her a star. To survive alone in New York, she stayed anywhere she could, eventually meeting some college kids who shared similar missions as her, and they let her crash in their dorm rooms.
So my time out there was really hard at first because I didn't have anywhere to stay. I didn't really know what I was doing, but then it ended up being so sweet because I built a community with people that were just hustling just like me, which was like a lot of college kids letting me stay in their dorm, which they shouldn't have been doing.
And you might be thinking, what would keep Doechii in New York when she had nothing there? Her family, her home, everything was in Tampa. She'd really risk losing it all to survive on her own in a new city? Well, as far as Doechii tells it, she felt she was close to something in New York. And she was definitely right.
Mom knew I was in New York. She just didn't know that I was struggling.
Right.
And I didn't want to tell her because I didn't want her to be right. Because she was just kind of like, it's not safe for you to go out there by yourself. You don't have no money. What are you
went
doing?
by yourself?
Yeah.
You stressing me out.
I know, that was my mom. I feel like something's close here in New York and I can do this.
But the thing is, what was close in New York wasn't necessarily a close encounter to a record label that would sign her and change her life. It wasn't a flashy internship job at a big New York radio station. What was close in New York that changed Doechii's life was being close to bankruptcy and having no change, resorting to a change that would change everything. Being broke in New York resorted Doechii to eventually moving back to Florida, and that's when reality finally hit hard. It wasn't about living on a prayer in a big city. Now she had to simply stay afloat. So to do so, Doechii took a day job at a local insurance company. A far cry from her artistic aspirations. For a while, she led a double life. Office employee by day, budding rapper by night. funneling every spare dollar into studio time and self-funded projects. In late 2020, this do-or-die hustle would lead her to proudly release an EP titled Oh the Places You'll Go, funding it all out of her own pocket. But before doing so, it wouldn't be long before the balance of being a corporate clerk and a creative composer would collapse. In early 2020, Doechii was abruptly fired from her job, an event she met with a mix of tears and uncanny bravery. Rather than hide her pain, she opened up her YouTube channel and hit record. With no job, no money, and no place to stay, effectively hitting rock bottom, Doechii spoke to the camera to whoever would listen.
So I got fired today. I don't give a f***, to be honest. Either way, I'm gonna be straight. I think tomorrow, I'm just gonna go to a whole bunch of like studios. Ask if they have any internships open. Like this one, I have nothing to lose. I literally have nothing to lose. I have no place. I have no job. I have no children. Who cares? I'm just gonna do it. I'll let you know how that goes.
And you could hear it in her voice. In that vulnerable moment, a 21-year-old Doechii refused to concede defeat. Either way, I'ma be straight. At this point, I have nothing left to lose, she proclaimed determinedly, resolving that tomorrow I'm just gonna go to a whole bunch of studios and ask if they have internships open. And see, this YouTube channel would turn into Doechii's lifeline. With nothing left to fall back on, she continued to bet on herself completely, and this moment of desperation set in motion the very breakthroughs that she'd been longing for. While taking a walk through Tampa, likely on a hunt to find a record studio that she could work at, Doechii stumbled across a pile of books, one of them called The Artist's Way.
I saw this book, and while the cover looks really boring, I was just drawn to it for some reason, so I picked it up and started reading it, and I think it's gonna be a whole vibe.
On the brinks of defeat and during a dark period of writer's block, Doechii picked this book up at the perfect time. The book, written by Julia Cameron, is a 12-week program designed to unblock creativity using practices like morning pages, which are daily streams of consciousness writing, and artist dates, which are solo creative outings. For a music artist like Doechii, it helps deepen self-awareness, overcome creative blocks, and build discipline, fueling more authentic, consistent artistic expression. And Doechii read it cover to cover, completed all 12 weeks of the creative course, and of course documented the entire journey on her YouTube channel.
Today is the end of week 1 of the course. Julia in this motherfucking book got on my nerves. This week too, I made some very interesting observations. Where to even start? I'm so exhausted. Like I'm in a standstill, especially inward. And if I'm growing inward, I know that I'm growing outward. Okay, so this week I said I felt more open to change, which is definitely true. Kind of gave myself permission to accept the fact that I may just gravitate towards other crafts, and that's okay.
Finishing this book gave Doechii the creative fuel needed to complete her debut EP, the one I mentioned that was fully self-funded, called Oh the Places You'll Go. The purpose of the book was to up-tap your highest creative potential by stripping your ego, letting loose of the outside world, and channeling your inner child. And doing so would play a pivotal role in landing Doechii her big break.
I read the book The Artist's Way, and I did all of the weeks, and it's basically this artistic creative recovery course. Creatively, I just felt blocked and cluttered. So I started this book to kind of self-help, and it ended up inspiring the concept for the project. A lot of things that were talked about in the book was mending the relationship between you and your inner child.
Doechii's debut EP took on the same name of the children's book of the same name, Oh the Places You'll Go, by Dr. Seuss. As far as the inspiration behind the project, I'll let Doechii tell it.
Obviously, it's one of my favorite childhood books, but overall, the message is so powerful in there. I think Dr. Seuss just simplifies life and makes it so simple when you read the book.
See, this project would feature Doechii's big breakout hit, with the title sounding like it's fresh out of a Dr. Seuss book itself. Drop a comment if you remember the song. Yucky Blucky Fruitcake. Nah, this song is fire. It was so raw and true, it eventually became a viral TikTok moment, but it wasn't the luck of simply going viral. Doechii used her last unemployment check to shoot the music video, adding her creative branding to trigger a viral moment to happen. Within a few months of the project's release, Doechii's virality and charismatic internet presence caught the attention of massive industry figures who she still has connections with today. In a twist of fate, Top Dog Entertainment president TDE's Anthony Musa Tiffith Jr. stumbled upon Doechii's music in 2021 and was floored by her raw talent. He reached out and encouraged her to move to Los Angeles, even offering a couch at his own place to sleep on until she gets back on her feet. And with barely a second thought, Doechii packed her belongings and left the hometown swamp for the concrete jungle of LA. The girl who had once been fired, broke, and sleeping on college couches was now entering the halls of a powerhouse label behind legends like Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, Ab-Soul, and SZA. Doechii signed with TDE and Capitol Records in March of 2022, becoming the first female rapper on TDE's roster. The dream was coming true, therefore all her problems were now over, right? Well, not quite. In truth, Doechii was about to discover that the hardest battles often arrive after the first taste of success. Doechii hit the ground running in Los Angeles. Almost immediately, she dropped a slick, confident single, Persuasive, and even snagged a spot performing on tour with SZA. And by 2023, the hard work was paying off because her bubbly pop, R&B/hip-hop single, What It Is, became a summer hit and gave Doechii her first Billboard Hot 100 entry. Now, most people don't even know this song was actually recorded by Doechii. Compared to her breakout 2024 Alligator mixtape, the vocals, the vibe, the messaging of What It Is sounds nothing like who she is as an artist today. And while What It Is a great record, it was tailor-made for radio. Some might call it a bubblegum pop hit. And with a decade of choir experience, Dr. Seuss-style experimentation, battles of being on the brinks of homelessness in search of a creative spark, a catchy pop love song didn't seem like the bold, definitive breakout introduction Doechii was destined for within the mainstream. On the outside, it looked like a rapid rise. Coachella appearances, major magazine features, and a skyrocketing profile, all while being signed to one of the most prolific rap record labels. However, behind the scenes, the pressure and temptations of her new life began to take a toll. Doechii was a young woman alone in Hollywood, far from home and carrying the weight of enormous expectations, some set by her record label, others by herself. The grind of constant studio sessions and the label's search for a commercial debut album left her creatively drained. As she later admitted, by late 2023, Doechii had fallen into a, as she puts it, relentless death roll of personal turmoil, feeling like she was drowning in her own vices and a creative numbness that broke her.
I'm internalizing all of the chatter that I'm getting from fans, from haters, from major label, from the guys like, oh yeah, we really like when you rap. Nah, we really like when you sing. She should keep doing the pop. She should keep doing this. And I was just too focused on what everybody else wanted for Doechii versus what Doechii wanted for Doechii.
And in my opinion, this is where the industry plant narrative grew its roots from. To many casual pop fans, it seemed like Doechii came out of nowhere in 2024. But really, she's been putting in insane work behind the scenes for years, testing out different styles, developing as an artist. The problem is, regardless of how many hits she racked up before her debut mixtape in 2024, there was no cohesive sound, no specific story being told. Doechii didn't know exactly who she was as an artist just yet. The label was almost trying to manufacture her into something she wasn't. The direction wasn't fully established or solidified. But because her final creative form was fueled so quickly once she put out her 2024 Alligator mixtape, most casuals didn't know the full backstory. It was like a brand new artist giving you their whole life all at once. But you'll see very shortly that that was all intentional.
It took me a really, really long time to figure out the direction of where I wanted to go with my music. We were dropping singles and time had gone by. And I was trying to discover who I was musically through singles. You know, you have artists that are single artists, and then you have artists that are like conceptual album artists. Yeah. And I think that I'm that type of artist. Absolutely. And I couldn't see that because I had never dropped a project before. So it was like 4 years went by and I got 10 singles out. I was like, listen, we gotta let something go as soon as possible. I've learned how to truly be codependent on me and validate myself, because when I first started out, I would internalize a lot of things. I'm being encouraged to make music like this or do it this way or work with these type of producers. And I would internalize that as, oh, they don't like me.
See, while Doechii was searching for her creative identity, she was also losing herself to another vice. The very same woman who once brimmed with self-made confidence on YouTube was now racked with anxiety, writer's block, and a creeping sense of self-doubt. Away from the cameras, Doechii began to self-medicate her stress and loneliness. The parties in LA were endless, and soon she picked up a quote-unquote pesky drug habit in Hollywood, a vice she later candidly references in her music. At times, she hardly recognized herself. The reckless bravado, the late-night binges, the mornings after filled with regret, her mental health plummeted into depression, exacerbated by a rough breakup that left her heartbroken. In private journal entries and in songs, Doechii poured out her feelings of failure. Had she come this far only to lose herself? Each day felt like a spin in the alligator's death roll, as she metaphorically described it. A chaotic whirl dragging her deeper the more she struggled. Doechii was on the brink of being devoured by her own dreams, but true to her pattern, hitting a new bottom only ignited Doechii's fighting spirit once again. In early 2024, after months of darkness, she made a brave choice to claw her way out of the pain. She sought sobriety, distancing herself from the scene that threatened to consume her.
I'm only not listening to the spirit of God when I am distracted internally. That's why I keep telling y'all this sobriety thing. I hear from God better when I'm sober and I'm clear-minded.
It wasn't easy to break free. Nights in withdrawal and self-reflection never are. But gradually, her mind cleared. In this newfound clarity, Doechii realized that waiting for inspiration or label direction was what was killing her artistry. She needed to take back control of her own narrative, just like she had done with her first breakout EP in 2020. And in that moment of chaos, Alligator Bites was birthed. In describing the Alligator Bites Never Heal mixtape concept, Doechii says, alligators perform a spinning maneuver known as the death roll to submerge and dismember its prey underwater. This past year, I've grappled with what felt like a relentless death roll in my life, a dance of drowning in my own vices, battling differences with my label, and a creative numbness that broke me. In my research about alligator attacks, I found that a common thread in each survivor was that the main reason they survived is because they fought back. This mixtape is my fight back. I am nobody's prey. I was born to be the predator. And what does a predator do? They continue hunting. So one spring morning in July of 2024, an energized and freshly sober Doechii walked into a meeting with her label executives. They were expecting updates on her long-delayed debut album. Instead, Doechii made a startling proclamation. Forget the album for now. She was going to drop a mixtape in just 1 month on her own terms. She later looked back on the process saying, I literally called my label and I was like, I'm going to drop a mixtape on August 30th. This is what my plan is. This is what I want to do. Aside from a brief study on alligators and a decade worth of blood, sweat, and tears climbing her way through this industry, Doechii didn't have the concept of this mixtape fully fledged out. But something in her said that she had to test her creative limits and put this end of August deadline on the tape. And that's exactly what she did.
It was something in my spirit that was like, you need to drop this project now. If you don't drop this project now, you're going to miss the mark. And I was like, I got to get this out right now. I don't know why, but God was just tugging on my spirit like it's time to go.
Top Dawg was stunned. Albums usually take months or years to conceptualize, create, polish, and roll out. But Doechii had absolute conviction. She had conceived this plan in a surge of creativity and a refusal to stay stuck. By announcing the 30-day creation deadline to her team and her fans, she ensured that there was no backing out. The pressure was immense, but it was exactly the jolt her creative heart needed. Every few days, Doechii imposed a radical deadline on herself. Conceive, write, and record a song within a single hour, then quickly shoot a DIY music video to accompany it. By limiting herself to just 60 minutes per track, Doechii forced her inner critic to step aside. There was simply no time for second guessing. If she got an idea, she ran with it. If she made a mistake, she turned it into magic or move on. These rough-edged 1-hour songs were then immediately shared to social media, giving fans a real-time window into her creative world. And in a way, it harkened her back to her YouTube vlog days, unpolished and intimate glimpses of an artist in the act of becoming. As the weeks of summer 2024 went by, Doechii released several loose songs onto her old YouTube page, titling them The Swamp Sessions. These sessions yielded 6 raw tracks that would form the backbone of her Alligator Bites Never Heal mixtape. Nissan Altima, Catfish, Boom Bap, each song possessing a wildly varying creative edge, sound, and message. Song by song, she was regaining her confidence. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, she poured her soul into deeper cuts that channeled all the anguish and growth of the past year. She rapped about heartbreak and creative rebirth. She sang about temptation and denial. She even revisited a fictional therapist character from one of her early EPs to help her process pain, blurring the line between reality and art. By the time August 14th, 2024, her 26th birthday rolled around, Doechii had miraculously completed 19 tracks for this mixtape. That day, she officially announced the project, Alligator Bites Never Heal, slated for release at the end of the month. The title was a vivid reference to both her swamp origins, the alligator being Florida state reptile, and the scars of the past year that still lingered. But more than scars, these bites had given her new strength. Doechii implied that alligator bites never heal because they transform you instead. When Alligator Bites Never Heal finally dropped in the end of August, the world might have not caught on just yet, but hip-hop heads knew exactly what it is, no pun intended. I even have a video really early on the channel where I dissected the project and compared its concept and that point in Doechii's creative journey to where Kendrick Lamar was when he released his first album, Section 80. What could have easily been a messy, rushed, half-formed 30-day experiment turned out to be the first cohesive, daring, and emotionally searing project that hip-hop had seen in a very long time. Doechii had harnessed the chaos of her life into art that was both uncompromisingly personal and sonically adventurous. The mixtape flows through genres effortlessly, gliding from gritty boom bap to sultry R&B to futuristic dance beats, and again, the world didn't catch on right away, but critics immediately took notice. Alligator Bites Never Heal was met with widespread critical acclaim and was announced as one of the contenders for Rap Album of the Year at the Grammy Awards, the same award show that birthed these industry plant rumors. And what I find ironic is that, just like most aspects of her decade-long journey, Doechii documented the moment she found out about her Grammy nomination on her YouTube page. But at the same time, in that same YouTube video, she also found out she just sold out her tour. And to me, this is the most glowing piece of evidence showcasing that this was not an example of an industry plant, but instead a boundary-pushing creative who had spent years refining her craft and cultivating a strong fan base. By the time the Grammys came around, it wasn't just the industry forcing Doechii down hip-hop heads' throats. She was already selling out tours, proving that the foundation for a diehard fan base had already been laid out for years by this point. And of course, we know the outcome. In February 2025, Doechii made history becoming the third female MC ever to win Rap Album of the Year at the Grammy Awards for her critically praised mixtape Alligator Bites Never Heal. But she was in rarefied company, joining Lauryn Hill and Carti B as the only other female rappers to ever accomplish this milestone. And just about a month later, the fruits of her labor would continue to pay off. In the trenches of those creative sessions, in the decade-spanning digital diary of her YouTube channel, fans would rediscover an old remix Doechii recorded to Doechii's song Somebody That I Used to Know. Anxiety had started as a freestyle Doechii did in her parents' house in Tampa. Years later, Sleepy Hollow loved what she did with the song so much he decided to use her hook on his own version of the song that he released in 2023. But after the hype of the Grammys and the refreshing feeling of a newcomer bringing a conceptual, story-driven project back to the forefront of hip-hop in 2024, all eyes were on Doechii, and newfound fans were digging through the digital diaries of her YouTube channel. And then they stumbled across her original Anxiety freestyle, launched it into virality, and gave Doechii the biggest hit of her career. And this is where the industry plant rumors come into play. People see a brand new artist with a debut mixtape, a top 10 hit, and a Grammy Award all in the same year, and because fans have been used to viral TikTok hits, sound bites, and mindless music, to witness pure artistic development, like Doechii's that was a career 10 plus years in the making, it's foreign to this generation. They're not used to receiving a concept project like Alligator Bites Never Heal and seeing real, authentic storytelling topping the charts. I would argue the last time we saw a career trajectory similar to Doechii's with the same high quality of music was in the early days of the blog era with some of Doechii's greatest inspirations like Tyler the Creator, Kendrick Lamar, or Nicki Minaj. In 2025, that's considered unconventional, so people aren't used to it, and they chalk it up to a manufactured industry scheme, when in reality, Doechii's been putting in blood, sweat, and tears for 10 years, almost facing homelessness, experiencing multiple stages of writer's block, and developing her creativity and putting it all into her debut mixtape. And it was only months after that debut mixtape, after a string of interviews, late night and tiny desk performances, guest appearances on every platform, a relentless promotional campaign because both she and her record label believed in the music, that Doechii then saw the fruits of her labor. Naysayers may call it luck, but as you can see, she would not exist without the trials and tribulations, the challenges, the self-discipline, and the constant drive to expand her creative limits. To the world, it's an industry plant, but to Doechii, this was all part of the plan.